So I had a great question that came in this last week. It said, I've had a company approach me about spending I'm not going to say the amount, but a certain amount per month for SEO to get me at the top of page one. Is this legitimate? And what is all involved with doing that? I think that's a great question because a lot of people ask the question about how do I get to the top of page one? And a lot of times when companies are trying to solicit your business, they may utilize that as part of their sales pitch. Like, hey, we can get you to the top of page one. But what's really involved in getting you to the top of page one, and what is a legitimate process that a marketing company might approach you with versus what is something that might come off as being, I don't want to say a scam, but might not be as legitimate. So first of all, coming up at the top of page one has everything to do with the combination of a lot of things that we've talked about before in this series, but that relate to search engine optimization or SEO. We're talking about, with regard to this, we're talking about organic results as far as like non-paid. If you want to pay and run Google AdWords, obviously you can come up at the top of page one, but you would be paying to do that. What we're talking about here with regard to this question is non-paid results and coming up to the top of the search results in a non-paid way. There's two places you can come up at the top of the search results. One is going to be just in your regular listing, like, as you search for things on Google, you're going to see the results come up. The other will be what we would call in the map or the map pack or things like that. And you've probably noticed if you search for a local product or service, you will see the map come up and you will see listings under there. Real quick clarification. The standard results that come up on the main page as far as organic results are going to be derived from your website and the SEO associated with your website. The results that come up in that map pack area or the map area with the little pins that show the different locations for localized services, those are going to be derived from your Google business page. So two different things going on here. But if you work both sides of these, they both can result in you having a listing at the top of your page, at the top of a search result page. In an ideal world, you would want to have both an organic result generated from your website and one generated from your Google business page. So you've actually got two listings at the top of the page. So this question, though, I believe is referring primarily to the non-Google business page that's something associated with your website. So here's the thing I would say with regard to that. First of all, any company that promises you a certain time frame that they can get you to the top of page one, that should be an initial red flag, if you will, that should crop up. There's a lot of different variables. We've talked about this in other questions I've answered before, but there's a lot of variables that come into play with regard to who shows up at the top of page one. One may be, how many competitors you have that are vying for those same search terms or keywords or key phrases in your particular marketplace. If there are a lot of competitors and say some of them have been doing a lot of good things for a while now, months/years, it's going to take you a while of beginning to do proper SEO to begin to percolate to the top and potentially get above that person. If you could do that, like I said, it's not a static environment. They're not set from a standpoint of, as you're making changes, no other changes are being made. They could have somebody working on their SEO as well. So that's going to have an impact on how quickly you can come up to the top of search results. The other thing is, what exactly, how much, the first part of that is how much competition and what they're doing. The second part of that is like, what activities are you actually doing? Obviously, there's your core foundational SEO on your website. There's building appropriate backlinks that can come back to your website. There's doing things with regard to, improving the functionality of your website that might not have anything to do specifically. You might not think of it as SEO, but increasing the speed of your website, the user experience of your website. Google takes all of these things into account when they figure out who is going to go to who they're going to place at the top, including things like you might not think about, like a bounce rate. What is bounce rate? Let me just talk about that really quickly. And I apologize, I'm going down so many rabbit trails, but this is a very complex topic and it can't just be answered really quickly with a soundbite. So a bounce rate would mean somebody comes to your website, they arrive at your website, and they leave from the same page that they arrived at. So they click on something, they arrive at your website. Maybe they determine they've gotten the information they needed. Maybe they've determined that this isn't what they're looking for. But the long and short of it is bounce rate is a percentage of people that come into your website and then without navigating to any other pages on your website, they leave again. That's what's called a bounce. So Google looks at that rate because what Google's trying to do, make no mistake about it, the business that Google is in is when somebody types something into Google searching for a particular result, Google's in the business of percolating a list of results that are trying to give you the best answers or the best results for what you're looking for. So if they put your website in a listing at the top of that, and a lot of people are clicking on it for a particular search or key phrase or keyword, and then leaving again, that's one indication Google might look at that this is a bad result. Like this is something when people get there, they're not finding what they're looking for, so they're leaving. Google's going to look at that as a potential indication that maybe I shouldn't put this result high in the search results because people seem to not be getting the information they came looking for. So that's one of those things with regard to a technical aspect that Google's going to look at. So if you use where that would come into play is if you use a lot of techniques to try to game the system with Google and utilize a lot of different things to try to get better search results. But when people arrive at your page, they don't find what they're looking for. You really want to, if you're going to do things, and I'll give you an example. We have some clients that really want to have better exposure in other markets. So what I recommend is that they actually build out a page on their website specific to that market and then do the SEO around that market. But when somebody clicks on that, if you're successful in getting your page to show up high in the search results, when somebody clicks on that, they're going to arrive at a page that talks about their product and or service in that particular market. So it's going to seem like a relevant result, and it's probably not going to get bounced out of. They may spend more time. But if somebody arrives, they quickly determine this isn't what they're looking for and leave again, Google's going to view that as being a negative metric, and they're going to probably start downplaying your website as a result of that. So back to the original question, and I apologize. I know I got off on a lot of tangents there. But the original question was a company approached me about spending a certain amount of dollars per month to get SEO results to get to the top of page one. The short answer is no reputable company is going to guarantee you top of page one results at a certain time period because it's almost impossible to predict how the Google algorithm is going to play, what your competition is going to be doing at the same time while you're doing it. What a lot of these companies do, I hate to say, is they tell you it's going to take 6 months. In the meantime, they collect a monthly fee for 6 months. And then when you don't show up at the top of page one, you get disgruntled with the results and you cancel the service. But in the meantime, they've collected 6 months worth of premium from you. And then they've already, in the meantime, brought on a bunch of new clients, and it's a numbers game. And unfortunately, we see that it happen in a lot of situations. I'm not pointing the finger at any particular companies at all, but just be careful. A good company. So what should a company that's doing good SEO, what should that look like? A company that's doing good SEO should be following best standard practices that Google lays out. They don't tell you exactly every element of the algorithm, but they do tell you what the best standard practices are. What I always try to tell people is do some searches of relevant keywords or key phrases for your company in your particular marketplace that you want to rank better for before any service starts. Before anybody starts doing anything, do a search with an incognito browser. I'm not going to go into right now how to get to an incognito browser. Just Google how to open up an incognito browser. It's really easy to do. What that essentially allows you to do is do searches in a browser that have no history, no cache, nothing like that, so that you can get a true result. Find out where your company's coming up. Find out if you're coming up at the middle of page 2 or the end of page 1 or wherever that may be. take notes of, hey, here's the 10 things I'm tracking, and here's where we currently show up before any work's being done. Then probably every 3 weeks to 4 weeks, I would check those 10 keywords again with an incognito browser so that you're getting a true result. What you should start to see if a company's begun doing SEO work to improve your SEO positioning is you should be able to start to see some improvement. Like if you were on the middle of page 2, the first thing I said, maybe after 30 days, you show up at the top of page 2. Maybe you show up at the bottom of page 1. Now, that's not a guarantee that you're going to just continue at that same rate all the way to the top of page 1. Maybe there's 5 competitors in your marketplace that are doing a really good job with SEO, and you're going to get up to position 6, and it's going to be a real dogfight to get any higher than position 6 in SEO because you have 5 competitors that are doing a really good job as well. But what you should see is you should be able to see an improvement from where you started to where you're going. Now, again, that's not a guarantee of how quickly you're going to become in position 1 because there's no way to guarantee that. But it's a way for you to check that the company that you're paying money to is at least doing something to help you begin to get better results. So I really hope that helps. Again, it's a very complicated topic, and I've almost chewed up half of our time today talking about it, but I think it's a really important topic, and I think it's a topic that people often get taken advantage of because they hear the words SEO and they want to come up at the top of page 1, but they really don't know how all that works, and they can get easily sucked into a bad situation paying a company money that's really not doing them a whole lot of favors.